Palestinians gather in the Ramallah city center to mark the one-year anniversary of Israel's genocidal war on Gaza. Citizens in Tel Aviv gather near the residence of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to demand the release of their relatives held in Gaza. And armed criminal groups carried out an attack in central Haiti, killing at least 70 people and displacing some 6,300 others from their homes. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On Monday, Palestinians gathered in Ramallah city center to mark the one-year anniversary of Israel's genocidal war on Gaza. Israel's year-long offensive in Gaza, one of the deadliest and most destructive in recent history, has killed more than 41,000 people, over half of them women and children. The security situation in the West Bank has also significantly worsened over the last year. Almost 722 Palestinians have been killed in the West Bank by the occupation forces and Israeli settlers. The Israeli onslaught has displaced most of Gaza's 2.3 million people and sparked a humanitarian crisis that has led to widespread hunger.
A year has passed and Israel is stumbling. It is committing massacres against our people, our children and our houses. But we are victorious. Today we are taking Israel to international courts. Today, the Palestinian cause is on the top of issues. The Palestinian cause is now recognized by all the countries, as well as in the International Criminal Court. This is the victory of October 7th. October 7th has united the countries, Iraq, Lebanon and Iran.
I have been in Ramallah since the start of the war. It is hard to make a living. A lot of people from Gaza are here and they are unemployed. God knows how they can pay for the accommodation, the cost of living, and how can they manage their life. Their wives and children are under shellfire. They are living in tents. They don't know if there will be a new day for their children. They sleep worried and they wake up worried. There is no safe place in Gaza, not schools, mosques or hospitals. There is no safe place for families. We want a solution for this. Enough of war.
In Palestine, also 1 year after the beginning of the genocide in the Gaza Strip, Israel continues its attacks and murders dozens of Palestinians in Khan Yunis. Local authorities report that Israeli forces ordered the displacement of Palestinian citizens in eastern Khan Yunis following the start of an incursion against this town in the southern Gaza Strip. In this regard, authorities stated that the Israeli forces destroyed streets leading to the eastern entrance of the government hospital in Jenin and destroyed the entrances to stores and houses in the region. Authorities denounced that the recent aggressions make it difficult for ambulances to reach the wounded. In this context, Palestinian authorities report 986 health workers killed in Israel's genocidal actions in Gaza. During a year of aggression, more than 300 humanitarian workers, mostly from the United Nations Agency for Palestine Refugees, 419 teachers, 175 journalists were killed by Zionist forces in Gaza. For its part, the World Health Organization warned that 10,000 people are still missing, some of them under the rubble, after Tel Aviv's bombardments in the region. And in Yemen, millions demonstrated on Monday in Sana'a on the occasion of the one-year anniversary of the Al-Aqsa flood operation carried out by the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas against the Zionist regime of Israel. On the motto "Storm Towards Freedom," citizens showed their support to the Palestinian people's resistance while condemning the aggressions of the Tel Aviv regime in Gaza and the assassination of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah. They also rejected the massacres committed by Israel against civilians in Lebanon and Palestine. Demonstrators expressed that the Al-Aqsa flood operation weakened the capabilities of the Zionist regime. And one of the main targets of the Israeli aggression during the past year has been the Palestinian health system, as the Zionist regime has repeatedly attacked hospitals and medical facilities throughout the Gaza Strip. From Palestine, our correspondent Huda Hegazi with more on the matter.
During this year of the Israeli genocidal war, Israel has been attacking different vital sectors here in the Gaza Strip. But the health system has been among the main sectors that have been damaged. During the year, Israel has attacked 34 hospitals out of the total of 37 that were here in the Gaza Strip, leaving only 4 hospitals active. I'm at this moment at the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital, one of the 4 that remain active in the Gaza Strip and the only one that is in the Central Governorate of Gaza, and it is providing medical health care to more than 1.5 million Gazans. In addition, more than 80 medical centers have been attacked and taken out of service, and more than 900 medical personnel, including doctors, nurses, and ambulance drivers, have been killed during this Israeli war. Furthermore, more than 3,000 medical personnel have been arrested by the Israeli army, either inside the hospitals of the Gaza Strip or in the different areas of this coastal enclave. Also, 130 ambulances have been directly attacked when they were carrying out their service of transferring the wounded, of transferring victims to hospitals, evidencing how the health system has been directly targeted. Due to these attacks and the restrictions imposed by Israel, the entry of medicines, medical supplies, as well as fuel has been affected, preventing hospitals and medical centers from being able to work. As a result, the patients have been impacted the most. During this genocidal war, patients, especially those with chronic diseases such as diabetes or cancer, have been prohibited from receiving treatment or even being able to leave the Gaza Strip to receive the necessary treatment abroad, especially since the closure of the borders. We will now speak with Mr. Ismail Al-Thawabta, the government's media director here in the Gaza Strip, to tell us about the attacks carried out by the Israeli army on hospitals in Gaza.
The Israeli occupation army attacked 15 vital sectors in the Gaza Strip. One of the most prominent and affected sectors from these attacks is the health sector. The Israeli plan confirms that the health sector must be destroyed in the Gaza Strip. They work to destroy it via 3 paths. The first path, the Israeli occupation army destroyed, burned, and put out of service 34 hospitals, leaving only 1 government hospital that provides humanitarian services to more than 1 million people in the center of Gaza. The second path, the Israeli army killed 986 doctors and nurses to completely eliminate the health sector. The third way is that the Israeli occupation has prevented the entry of treatments, medicines and medical supplies to the Gaza Strip. Now the doctors in the remaining operating rooms perform surgical operations without anesthesia and sterilization equipment, and this is a real danger for the doctor and also for the patient. We are therefore facing a catastrophic humanitarian crisis. That is why we must intervene to put an end to this crisis before it is too late.
As we have been assured by the government media spokesman here in the Gaza Strip, the main victims have been the sick, the patients who have not been able to have the necessary medical assistance or receive the necessary treatment or medicines. The continuous attacks that the Israeli army has been carrying out to different hospitals, but mainly to the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital, have been condemned. Inside this medical center, more than 6 direct attacks have already been reported, either in the tents of the refugees or even in the tents of the journalists. And therefore, the message today, especially on this anniversary, is to the international community, to the World Health Organization, that enough is enough. We must put an end to these attacks that the Israeli army is carrying out, especially on the centers and hospitals. Since these areas are supposed to be safe, should be humanitarian, and should not be attacked, and therefore the message is that we must put an end to these attacks here in the Gaza Strip.
Let's now take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Pakistani authorities are investigating a large explosion that occurred this October 6 outside Karachi airport, killing 2 Chinese citizens and injuring others. The Chinese embassy in Pakistan reported that a convoy carrying Chinese workers from a power company was attacked near the Jinnah International Airport in Karachi. As a result of the explosion, 2 Chinese citizens were killed, another was injured, and the other 7 victims belonged to the local population. An Inspector General of Police told the media that apparently an oil tanker explosion had taken place, adding that they are still investigating the incident and that it is too early to give a full assessment of the crime, in which police officers were also killed.
Según los primeros informes, se inició un incendio en un
According to
camión
first reports, a fire broke out in an oil tanker, involving several vehicles and causing collateral damage. We are trying to assess whether there is an element of terrorism, and we have not ruled it out.
Chinese and North Korean leaders celebrate 75 years of diplomatic relations. Chinese President Xi Jinping stressed that the establishment of diplomatic ties between the two countries allowed mutual support in consolidating socialism, defending national sovereignty, and promoting peace in the region. North Korea's President Kim Jong-un reaffirmed his government's commitment to strengthen cooperation with China in line with the interests of both peoples and the requirements of the new era. The two leaders wish each other mutual prosperity, success in consolidating their achievements, and progress in becoming increasingly modern societies. And in Kazakhstan, the construction of a nuclear power plant was approved on Sunday through a referendum with 66.23% support and 63.87% turnout, according to preliminary data presented by the country's Central Electoral Commission. More than 12.2 million Kazakhs voted on Sunday to agree or disagree on the government's proposal to build the country's first ever nuclear power plant. During the process, it was reported that there were no major incidents. In addition, the president of Kazakhstan, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, went to the polls earlier in the day and cast his vote at a polling station in the capital city of Astana. The construction of a nuclear power plant will reduce Russia's electricity imports and its dependence on fossil fuels, as the country is 80% dependent on coal mines that generate electricity, a highly polluting sector. And the Russian government accused Ukraine of planning a false flag attack with toxic substances during military operations. The Russian Defense Ministry reported to have intel on Ukraine, training more than 40 security agents in The Hague to take samples documenting the use of toxic substances. In turn, the ministry said that the evidence will be handed over to the representatives of the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons to prepare a fair report. The Defense Ministry warned about the request of the permanent mission of Ukraine to the European Union to supply about 283,000 hazmat suits and 20,000 kits for the rapid containment of chemical warfare agents. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Found your break? Don't go away. Welcome back. On Sunday, Mexican entities and political leaders paid homage to the late president of the Chamber of Deputies, Ifigenia Martinez. Martinez was an outstanding left-wing feminist in Mexico who passed away at 94, 4 days after she had led clergy and bound swearing-in ceremony. On Friday, Martinez posted on X that handing in the presidential sash to the first woman president was one of the greatest honors of her life. Meanwhile, President Claudia Sheinbaum sent her deepest condolences. Moreover, legislator Ricardo Monreal described her as an extraordinary woman. Furthermore, the Autonomous National University of Mexico praised her as a distinguished economist and a tireless fighter for freedoms and democracy. And armed members from a criminal group carried out an attack in central Haiti, killing at least 70 people and displacing some 6,300 others from their homes. The attack in Pont-Sonde occurred in the early hours of Thursday morning, and many left on foot in the middle of the night, taking only their children and other relatives with them. Currently, almost 90% of the displaced are staying with relatives in host families. Violence from criminal groups in the Artibonite department, which produces much of Haiti's food, has increased in recent years. The International Organization for Migration said on October 2nd that over 700,000 people, more than half of them children, are currently internally displaced in Haiti.
They shot at us, and the gangs robbed the houses. They tried to kill everyone, and some people were shot in the head.
And on Monday, the U.S. National Hurricane Center informed that by 9 a.m., Hurricane Milton strengthened into Category 4. Experts predicted that Hurricane Milton can potentially reach Category 5, grounded in the record warmth of the Gulf of Mexico. In addition, the center forecasted that both dangerous hurricane-force winds and storm surge with damaging waves are expected across portions of the northern coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. Therefore, the Mexican government issued a hurricane warning for the Yucatan Peninsula coast from Celestún to Rio Lagartos. Meanwhile, the NHC alerted that environmental conditions will pose life-threatening risks at the west coast of the Florida Peninsula as of Tuesday evening or early Wednesday. Hence, authorities issue warnings and urge people to take precautions. On October 10, 1980, in the midst of the armed conflict in El Salvador, the Farabundo Martí Front for National Liberation was founded. On Sunday, founders, leaders, and militants commemorate the 44th anniversary of the organization that became a political party. From San Salvador, our correspondent Roberto Hugo Presa with the details.
Revolutionary music brightened up the atmosphere. Former fighters who took up arms for 12 years celebrated the 44th anniversary of the unification of 5 guerrilla groups that on October 10, 1980 formed the most important guerrilla organization in El Salvador.
It is a historic moment where the synthesis of all Salvadoran revolutionaries unite in a single fist to strike harder and make the history of an armed conflict of a revolutionary people's war that lasted 12 years.
This commemoration honored the memory of thousands of revolutionary fighters who died before, during, and after the war. The historical cadres of the former guerrillas were absent. Many left the country when judicial proceedings were announced against them.
Many of the leaders of the Farabundo Martí Front for National Liberation are victims of arbitrary judicial persecution, based on proceedings without any evidence, totally illegal proceedings. They are kept out of the country. They have had to seek protection and refuge in friendly countries.
We are under a neo-fascist regime that persecutes the social fighters, the members of the front, the founders. Many of our comrades are in exile. Others have open processes. Others are in jail.
But this coup did not break the spirit of thousands of revolutionaries who continue to accompany the people in their struggle for their rights.
Because we are seeing that the government has forgotten the social agenda and has dedicated itself to an economic agenda in which few will benefit and many will suffer the effects of this economic issue in El Salvador.
Before a euphoric militancy, the General Secretary called on the workers to defend the conquests achieved, especially teachers and health workers whose pay scales were eliminated by the government.
We condemn the lack of transparency in the use of public funds and repudiate the abusive salaries of officials and employees in favor of the regime. Just as in the past, today we raise our voice for all those whose rights have been violated.
The maximum leader of the organization expressed his solidarity with the peoples of Palestine and Lebanon who are the object of genocidal attacks and condemned the criminal blockade that the United States maintains against Cuba and Venezuela.
Roberto Hugo Presa, teleSUR, El Salvador.
Ladies, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. So join us on our social medias on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.